Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 196, IO 541e to 542a. Socrates has just finished considering the possibility that Io is both a rhapsode and a general from the same techne, simply because Io is a rhapsode. The claim was by Io that he is therefore also a general, and as a good rhapsode he is a good general, simply because they have the same techne. Socrates has not argued against the idea that one techne serves two occupations. What he has done is simply shown that were it the case that Io were a great strategos, general, he would have been enlisted by the Athenians simply because they also have other foreign generals. We're talking about a time when the Athenian army was quite low on manpower. The fact is that this is quite a bad argument. There is always the possibility that the Athenians have decided not to use Io as a general, despite him being a good general, because they really do like him to be a rhapsode, or for any other reason. What Socrates should have said simply is that the same techne cannot be of both rhapsody and generalship. A techne is a body of knowledge which is applied towards a particular result, and only one. It cannot be to result in a poem being delivered to an audience and to an army being led. It isn't the case, therefore, that we can say that Plato himself is showing that Io is not a general simply because he is a rhapsode. This was a ridiculous point to make in the first place. No techne serves two occupations. And this is yet another problem for us to consider at the end of the dialogue. Speaking of which, we are very close to the end now. If we recall earlier when Socrates showed that Io was divinely inspired, Io said that he wasn't convinced, and there's no reason to think that Io is convinced now. Whatever Io thinks, Socrates is now coming to his own conclusions, and he thinks that there are only two options available to Io. Allah garsu o ion emen aletheleges hos techne kai episteme hoiostee homeron epainen adikes. But you, Io, if you are telling the truth, that you are able to praise Homer by techne and episteme because of craft and understanding, you are being unjust. Socrates hasn't yet explained why Io is being unjust. If this is the case, he's simply setting up the condition. The only problem with this is that it is a condition of Socrates' own making. This is not something Io himself claimed. Io does claim to have techne and episteme. In fact, episteme is one aspect of techne, the theoretical part. The episteme is the knowledge or understanding required for the techne. It's the knowledge or understanding which is applied while attempting to attain the end goal of the techne, whatever it happens to be. Horse breeding, for example, requires not only a knowledge of horses, but how to breed horses. And it is this knowledge or understanding which is applied in order to produce horses. Io then does have techne and episteme, obviously. If he has techne, he must have episteme. But he has this in order to perform, to convey the poetry of Homer to an audience. He does not have techne and episteme simply in order to praise Homer, which is what Socrates is saying here. At the beginning of the dialogue, Io was excellent at performing Homer, and it was Socrates who turned the conversation towards understanding Homer, and he is the one who caused Io to have to say that he could explain Homer, which is not what a rhapsode is supposed to do. It may be argued that a rhapsode needs to understand what the poet means in order to portray the speakers in the poem in an accurate way, but it is not the job of the rhapsode to go into all the technicalities of fishing or making a particular recipe or even leading an army. This is not what the rhapsode is about. The rhapsode is a performer. The fact that Io went along with Socratic questioning here implies that he is a bit confused about where exactly his episteme of the subject ends. Io got it right when he talked about his effect on the audience. He wants to move his audience in the way that he wants them moved. He wants them to weep when necessary, to feel fear when necessary in the poem, and it is Socrates who shifts the entire conversation towards understanding subject matter. And then we have the long conversation which shows that in any particular subject matter there is always another techne which is preferable to the rhapsodic techne. But at no point does Io say that he has a techne and episteme in order to praise Homer. It is a fact that Io does praise Homer, but that isn't what his techne is about. This, however, is the condition Socrates now sets up, and according to this criterion, he claims that Io is doing him wrong. Now let's see why. Hostis emoi hupus hominos hos pola kai kala peri Homero epistasai kai fascon epidexen exapetasme kai polu des epidexai. You who, having promised me that you understand many and fine things about Homer, and claiming to show, to demonstrate, you deceive me, and you are far from demonstrating. Actually, Io didn't promise any such thing. He did not deceive Socrates. Io was going to perform for Socrates near the beginning. He said, yes, I can perform for you. And Socrates said, wonderful, but not now. I have another question. And that question was about Io's ability to understand what Homer was saying. The verb to demonstrate is cognate with the noun epidexis, demonstration, exhibition, the sort of thing which a sophist would do in order to show off what he's capable of doing. A rhapsode in an epidexis would simply perform. This would adequately show to the audience what the rhapsode is capable of doing. It is through the performance of a piece of Homer that the audience would appreciate the many fine things in Homer. It is not Io's job, once again, to talk about the many fine things. He is not a teacher. Hosgeu de hat esti taute perihon de nos e theles epen, palai emu liparuntos. You who are not even willing to say what these things are about which you are clever, although I have been persistent for a long time now. The word denos, clever, is commonly used to describe sophists. A rhapsode could conceivably be denos in his outstanding performances, but Socrates here is treating Io as a sophist, someone who knows things and is expected to talk about them, to teach the things that he knows. Socrates has actually been persistent in asking what techne is preferable when it comes to talking about any particular subject matter, and in every case, Io has agreed that the person with the techne, which is peculiarly about particular subject matter, is preferable to the rhapsodic techne. And he is correct. It was only when he was about to lose all subject matter that Io was forced to declare that, being a rhapsode, he was also a strategos, a general. If he hadn't said that, and the general had the subject matter of leading an army, there would have been no subject matter left at all for the rhapsode. Ala technos hosper ho protius pandotopos gigne strefomenos ano kai kato heos teliuton dia fugon me strategos anephanes hina me epidexes hos denos e ten peri homeru sophian. But basically, just like Proteus, you become a man of all sorts, twisting up and down, so that in the end you have escaped my clutches by appearing to be a strategos, in order not to demonstrate that you are clever, denos, with regard to the sophia concerning Homer. Proteus was a shapeshifter, and he would answer any question if you held on to him long enough, despite all his attempts to change shape and escape, something Io was not trying to do.